The Broncos are in the thick of training camp right now. Nate and I are going deep. Brought to you by Landmark Lincoln. So this is our third show. When do we hit the point where we stop talking about how many shows we've done? Like my father, as an example, doesn't say that I'm almost 57 years old. He still says I'm 682 months old. So when do we hit the point?
That's not weird at all.
No,
that makes sense. Maybe after episode 10, right? Once we're into 11, 12, once we're into double digits, we can stop talking about how many episodes we've done. Although Joe Rogan, podcast extraordinaire, he has like episode number 2,732.
Does he do that way?
Oh yeah. I mean, they count every single one. I don't listen to Joe Rogan either. And people who do listen to Joe Rogan, like they're out there. People who listen to every one of the 4-hour episodes every time they come out, and they still, it's an interesting lot, the Rogan Bros.
So again, this show brought to you by Landmark Lincoln and the brand new Lincoln Navigator. This thing is a great ride.
Yep.
You got luxury, you got power, you got to drive this thing for yourself. Every day I come into the show, when I drive to Gorilla Sports, I drive right by Landmark Lincoln. You need to go check them out. They're off of Broadway, off of Englewood. Go to landmarklincoln.com. You will not be disappointed. Here's the other thing I love about Landmark Lincoln. When you park your car there, like cicadas, you do not have sales guys all over you. It's no pressure in order to buy there. But when you hop in that ride, you're going to be like, damn, this ain't Grandpa's car. Because you know what? Grandpa couldn't handle the power.
Oh, no.
But Grandpa would love the luxury. Landmark Lincoln. Once again, find them off of Broadway in Englewood or go to landmarklincoln.com. With that, we're doing the show live right now at 11 o'clock in the morning. Training camp is going on right now. So I want to get into what happened yesterday. Third straight day in pads. You and I were both there. The 9-on-7 between the first team offense and the first team defense, to say the least, was spirited. J.K. Dobbins was jawing with the defense every time he touched the ball. R.J. Harvey made some nice cuts. Jaleel McLaughlin, he flashed as well. Malcolm Roach is a load in the middle, and boy, that guy cannot stop talking. And no one knows that better than the guy who sits next to him as a locker mate, and Marvin Mims.
Yeah, I mean, it's just Malcolm Roach. I mean, I sit next to him in the locker room. The guy doesn't shut up. He's talking crap to receivers. It's like, dude, like, you're a fat guy. Like, go worry about that. Leave me alone. But, no, we're always going back and forth. But with him, it's just a whole nother deal.
He's a fat guy, and he should worry about that, right? They're always going back and forth. That's the cool thing about a locker room. You get guys, skinny guys, fat guys,
small
big
guys.
guys, small guys. Like, there's no smaller guy on the team than Marvin Mims. And there he is talking shit to one of the biggest guys on the team. Clearly, it's a brotherhood, and that's part of it. The jawing is part of it. What we all saw out there yesterday, that's part of it. Talking shit in sports, especially football practice, a violent physical football practice, is part of it. You like to see that. As coaches, Sean Payton was pretty happy yesterday after that practice, and that's why, because guys care. They're getting after it. J.K. Dobbins, you said he was drawn to the defense. That's because, why? Because Dre Greenlaw on the very first play put him on his butt, came through the hole and smacked him. Right. And he's like, oh, it's going to be like that. Yeah, it's going to be like that. This is a period that is going to be like that. So let's talk shit to one another. Let's get involved in some spirited physicality, because that's what football is. And so you have to prepare yourself for the games. This is how you do it. Those types of moments. And the defense always, you and I were talking about this on the sideline a little bit. The defense has the advantage in certain drills.
Correct.
9-on-7 is a run drill. There are no passes.
Right.
The receivers are over on a different side of the field doing one-on-ones against the DBs.
Right.
This is only runs, linemen, tight ends, running backs, and the defense could come downhill. They can pin their ears back and attack. So they're going to be excited. They're going to be talking shit. And if the offense can bust out some nice plays in a 9-on-7 period, against those odds, they got to feel good about it, and they did towards the end of those periods.
You always hear guys jawing at each other in practice, and I'm sure guys joke around in the locker room, and you've been in lots of locker rooms, but I don't remember a guy really digging in a fun way at a teammate publicly. publicly. He called Malcolm Roach a fat guy. I've never heard that. Anything.
Well, they call themselves fat guys too.
I understand that, but I've never heard a teammate joke in public on a podium about one of his teammates. What does that say about the looseness and the camaraderie and the culture that Sean Payton has built?
Well, Malcolm Roach was a New Orleans guy.
Right.
Sean Payton brought him over specifically. Well, I don't know specifically. His skill set, obviously, on the field is important to this team, and the depth piece he provides. He's a really good player. But also that presence in the locker room. Sean Payton talks about glue guys. What's a glue guy? People like Malcolm Roach who add some levity, because football is brutal, man. You're out there kicking the crap out of each other. Sometimes that's not fun. You go in the locker room, you're feeling beat up, you're feeling down. You know, they don't do the two-a-days anymore. They're not in pads twice a day. The dog days of camp, not as dog day-ish anymore as they used to be. That said, it still sucks sometimes getting your pads on and going out there and hitting. And Malcolm Roach, a guy like Malcolm Roach, can keep it light, can crack jokes, can get guys their juices flowing when people are starting to feel sorry for themselves. Halfway through camp, people start to feel sorry for themselves. So a guy like Malcolm Roach who can bring you out of it and get you into the moment is great.
Mike Shanahan, famous for building a culture. Now you have Sean Payton building a culture. As a player, is culture a real thing, or is it really about winning makes a culture?
Well, I mean, you know, what came first, the chicken or the egg?
Right.
And neither of them did. The rooster came first.
Is that right?
Cock-a-doodle-doo. Yeah, he came first, of course. But no, the culture is built through a standard of excellence, right? And you learn that by winning, of course, but you have to go through a routine that leads you to wins. And that routine involves creating a really high standard and then having everyone live up to it.
Right.
And everyone who can live up to it holds themselves to account and becomes part of that culture. And that culture requires veterans, and obviously the rookies come in, but Sean Payton can't be the guy up there every day telling people what to do.
Right.
The veterans have to show the way. And that, to me, that's what a good culture is about. The veterans really showing the way. So the rookies just follow the veterans. Just do what they're doing. You know, Sean Payton doesn't have to pull every guy aside and tell him what to do as far as his culture goes. He sets the standard. The players hold each other to account, and the culture kind of falls in place.
I want to get back to Mims as the player.
Yeah.
When they brought in Evan Engram, you know, you heard Sean Payton say, you know, he's the Joker. He's the Joker. We're going to use him in different ways.
Joker.
Isn't Mims really the Joker, though? He lines up in the backfield. He takes handoffs. He runs sweeps. He catches the ball. Isn't Mims really the guy that does everything? Isn't he your Joker?
This is why I'm hot. You don't know that Mims song, but there's a Mims song called This Is Why I'm Hot. And this is why he's hot. Because he could do a lot of different things.
I'm familiar with Mims.
No,
and I'm going to tell you why. Because you told me about Mims before the start of the show.
Right. That's why you're familiar. Oh, there's breaking news, apparently.
Is it Zach Allen? Dre Greenlaw just went into the locker room. Oh, man. Okay. So they were working him in slowly. So it's crazy. It starts with Drew Sanders in that foot, now out 4 to 6 weeks. Then you have a thumb with Singleton. He might be back next week. Then you have Greenlaw now going down with an injury. Not sure if it's a soft tissue injury. They're loaded, talking about the Broncos, pass rush, cornerback, offensive line, wide receiver. Inside linebacker, to me, was not the weakest part of the team, but it had the least amount of depth. And now Dre Greenlaw going down, and we don't know what the injury is. This obviously just happened. This is the center of your defense, and this is about stopping the run. And now they are missing, arguably, their top 3 guys.
Yeah. And Cody Barton, who stepped in last year when Alex Singleton got hurt and actually played really well, he's gone. He went to Tennessee, got a pretty good contract because of how well he played. But Dre Greenlaw, this is not good news at all. Do you remember the first day of OTAs? It wasn't even OTAs. It was just running and lifting. It was the very first day of running and lifting.
Right.
He pulled his quad. A report came out of the Bay Area that he tore it, that he was going to be done for a significant amount of time.
Right.
Broncos, Dove Valley, and some of the sycophant media members who are tied to them went into damage control and said, Dre Greenlaw's fine. It's fine. It's nothing. It's nothing. Nothing to see here. He's going to be fine. They're just going to shut him down for the rest of the OTAs, and he'll be ready to go by training camp. And he was ready to go for a couple days of training camp. I don't even know how many full speed days he had. I know they eased him into the first couple days, and here he is walking the locker room. This is a problem, of course. Dre Greenlaw plays the game at a pace that is going to put his body in a compromising position. He's now played 6 years with that type of style. His body's starting to change. He tore his his Achilles in the Super Bowl a couple years ago, and it wasn't even ready to go last year. He came back for one game last year. They shut him down. And now this is more soft tissue stuff. Once the soft tissue stuff, and I've been there.
Right.
I tore a groin one year, and in week 4 or 5, ended my season. The next year, I tore my hamstring off the bone.
Right.
That ended my season. It was torn. And once that stuff starts happening, there's a chain reaction in your body where it's like, oh, this thing hurts. Now I'm going to rehab that. Well, then it creates a weakness over here and some instability and some misalignment. And then you get out there and you try to be your normal self, and it's not working the same way anymore. And then something else goes. And we don't know what happened with Dre. Obviously, that tweet by Romy there just stated that he went to the locker room. Oh, there's another one here.
One-on-one coverage going up against JK. You know, he's going to be covering wide receivers. Dobbins beat him deep. Let's see. He just pulled up.
Yeah.
I'm not going to predict what it is.
Well, it's
when
a
you
soft
pull
tissue.
Up, hamstring, something like that.
A groin, hamstring, things like that. To me, when I was just talking about when I tore my hamstring off the bone, it happened at practice. It was like week 12. We were getting ready for the Raiders, and it was as I decelerated. I hit top speed, and then my first step as I sort of slowed down, pop, it blew.
Right.
And if he walks to the locker room after that, man, it's not like just like, oh, you know, I'm okay, let me walk. No, he knows that it's significant enough for the practice to be over. And so, yeah, that's not great.
When they brought in free agents, they brought in talented guys.
Yep.
Engram, Greenlaw, Hufanga, and J.K. Dobbins.
Yep.
All guys with a history of injuries, specifically last year. And I think maybe you and I talked about it, even before we decided to do the show together, that my biggest concern was that Sean Payton is so confident in the training that they do, the stretching that they do, that they've been basically injury-free with their starters for 2 full years. And I thought maybe he's too confident.
What do you mean confident? Like, what do you mean he's confident that they won't get hurt? I mean, as a football coach, you know they're going to get hurt, and you do your best to keep them from getting hurt.
Not the last 2 years.
But what do you mean?
Well, with the system, with Bo Lowry,
yeah,
and what he does, they've been relatively injury-free
I know, but what do you mean
for 2 years.
But what do you mean that Coach Payton is confident that they won't get hurt?
I can bring this guy in, whether he's been injured or not, and he's going to stay healthy with me because I have a 2-year track record with soft tissue injuries. That's what I mean by confident. I can bring in talented guys.
I think that he would have been interested.
And they will become part of our system, and this is not going to happen to them. And he brought in 4 guys like that. And now we have Dre Greenlaw. We don't know what the situation is. And to me, there was a danger in that. You can bring in all kinds of free agents. You can bring in free agents because maybe the other team doesn't want to pay that type of money. So you bring that guy in, but it doesn't mean they have a history of injuries. They brought in 4 guys who missed significant time last year.
Yeah. I don't see, look, injuries are part of football. Everybody gets hurt. You play long enough in this league, you're going to start accruing some injuries, especially if you play the game the way Dre Greenlaw does. And so this injury by Dre Greenlaw is a pattern that's, you know, not a good one, but I wouldn't say it's reflecting poorly on Sean Payton or their, you know, philosophy with bringing in players. Dre Greenlaw is such a dynamic player. You remember Kyle Shanahan, I don't know if you know the story, but Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch got on a plane and went out to Texas to try to change his mind from going here. They wanted to keep him there, obviously. Yep. And he said, no, the Broncos really wanted me. I don't think it's naive to think or to believe in your training staff enough to take some chances like this on players who you really value and who you really want.
Hold on. They took 4 chances.
Talanoa Hufanga wasn't soft tissue stuff. He broke his wrist or something.
I understand that. What I'm saying is they didn't bring in free agents who were coming in healthy from the season before. And because Sean Payton, and rightfully so, feels strongly about Bo Lowry and how he trains these guys.
Yeah.
And when you are basically healthy for 2 straight years, which is roughly 35 plus games.
Yeah.
That's not an accident. Right. That is a pattern. So I'm guessing when they look at guys like this, they feel we're just going to absorb them into our system.
Yeah. So
this doesn't happen to them with what happened with other teams. They're not going to get injured with us. They're not going to have soft tissue injuries because we have a system down. To Sean Payton's credit, when you look at the last 2 years, it has been beyond impressive. So what I'm saying is he probably thought, I can take the risk with guys coming in who missed a lot of last season because our system is better than the systems they came from.
I think he thinks that about his own football philosophy as well, his own offensive system and all that. Not just the training staff, but the way he does business, top to bottom, compartmentalizing every aspect of the organization. But I agree with you. It gave him confidence to be able to want to.
Was he overconfident?
No, because these are great football players. You take your chances there. You plug them in and you see if it'll work. Dre Greenlaw got hurt on the first day of off-season conditioning and strength and conditioning program, which is typically not hard.
Right.
You don't go kill the guys on day one. You put them through a workout to see where they're at. And it's never, what you're going to be doing 2 months from now. It's never that hard. And so the fact that Dre Greenlaw pulled a quad or whatever he did on day one of let's get acclimated conditioning, that's a problem. That is a big problem for Dre, and I think his health going forward. And it's gonna be difficult for them to keep him healthy.
Okay, so I want to get into the season as a whole. I think any reasonable person would say Bo Nix is going to be the key to the season. But we on this show and Sports Talk Radio, so we talk a lot about Nix, and then we talk about the position players, the wide receivers, and Evan Engram and things like that. And then we talk about Pat Surtain and bringing in Hufanga.
Yeah.
What we don't talk enough about is what really is going to help them win this year. And I go back to my childhood when I, watched the Chicago Bears. Everybody talked about the Chicago Bears and Mike Ditka. Everybody
Did
talked.
Jim McMahon, the quarterback of that team, was in my father was his 8th grade teacher.
That is fascinating.
In San Jose, California.
Well, let's talk more about that.
Can
Nate.
we?
Yeah.
Can we go into that?
Tell me about Jim McMahon.
Well, he's
the
a pretty
punky
interesting
QB.
dude.
But getting back to the way the Chicago Bears were built. They were built from the inside out. Dan Hampton drafted in 1979. And then they brought in Mike Singletary. And then they drafted 2 bookend tackles with Keith Van Horn and Jimbo
You were busting my
Covert.
balls for talking about Jim McMahon. Now you're talking about these dudes.
I'm bringing this up for a reason. This team was built that Bears team was built from the inside out.
Yeah.
Yet we look at the shiny object, Bo Nix and Courtland Sutton and Vele and Surtain.
Right.
I think this team is going to win games, even if some of these guys aren't great in a particular game, because of their offensive line and because of that front seven.
Yeah.
This team was built the right way.
Yeah.
And I would challenge anybody to tell me a better in the trenches roster than the Broncos. When you look at the front seven and when you look at the offensive line, they have been built the right way, but all of us gravitate towards what's Bo Nix doing today and what's Vele doing today. And look at Franklin. He's not being yelled at practice anymore, and he's starting to get it. And Mims is getting it.
Right. Well, it's because it's
that's the core of this team. And it is so it's kind of like your body. Your core dictates everything. Up above your core and your legs. And the core of this team is so strong, but we don't pay enough attention to that. Why?
Because we don't understand it. It looks just like a big scrum. It just looks like a bunch of
help me understand it, because you played.
I was going to.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you just help me understand. I'm going to. No, like when we watch practice, right? The ball is the most interesting thing. We want to see it in flight, right? So you're looking at the periphery. It's also easier to see a receiver standing off to the side with a guy covering him. Oh, they're running, and I can see what the coverage is. That big, mass of bodies in there. They're very coordinated. They have a very specific job, but to us on the outside, it's hard to see what that job is. We don't see that movement, but it is incredibly important to the game. We talked about Sean Payton being a Bill Parcells disciple, right? And valuing that, not only the toughness, the physical camps, the padded practices, but those big boys. And so as much as we think of Sean Payton as just a pass-happy coach, he understands exactly what you just described. You build it from the inside out. And Bo Nix's performance last year, his ability to stay clean in the pocket, had a lot to do with those guys. You remember, Quinn Miners is a D3 prospect who didn't even play his senior year, because of COVID. He was out there knocking down trees and like Paul Bunyan style, And he's a 3rd-round pick, and now he's an All-Pro. He's the best in the league at his position. Garrett Bowles playing really well. Mike McGlinchey playing really well. Ben Powers. So these guys are playing at a very high level, and then when you have guys on the opposite side who are challenging them every day, like that D-line is, it really sets the precedent. And I think you're absolutely right about that. But we're always going to follow the ball through the air because that's what's interesting to people.
Right. When we did the show recently, we talked about Courtland Sutton getting his new deal and so on and so forth. Since then, he has spoken to the media. And, you know, he could have made more according to Spot Rack. And what I mean by Spot Rack is they are the ones that assign values, what a guy potentially could make. And they're on most of the time. So Courtland Sutton is making $23 million a year. According to Spot Rack, he probably could have commanded 27 per year instead of 23. So this is what Sutton said about that. He said, we have guys that are coming up and trying to get their second contract. We have a bunch of guys like a Zach Allen and a Nick Benito and a John Franklin Myers who are looking for new deals. Alex Singleton as well. What does it say about a player on your team when he's willing to leave money on the table in order to help build the roster? When you look at a guy like that, it's not like you have an added respect for him necessarily,
of course you do,
but you know that he is sacrificing his own bank account to make sure that we win.
Yeah, he wants to win, right? He's probably approaching 30 here.
Yes. He'll be 30 October 10th of this year.
Right. And when you get to that 30 mark as a professional football player,
right,
not a quarterback or a kicker, but the other positions, the real football players among us who have to run, hit, get tackled all the time, and put our body in the type of, you know, awkward positioning that's going to shorten your career. There is an incentive, or at least there's an ethos to get as much as you can while you can.
Right.
Right. And it just shows you that you gave the money to the right guy here, and you kept the right guy in town. And a couple of years ago, there was a real conversation happening about whether Courtland was going to get traded, or cut, or is he the future, or is he
right?
And now he's here, and it looks like he'll be here for the long haul. And he wants to set up his other teammates to get paid as well. The hierarchy in the locker room is pretty wild. The discrepancy between the haves and the have-nots.
Yeah,
I mean, it's hard to think of players in the NFL locker room as have-nots.
Yeah,
but their minimum salary is, you know, probably. Their salary is probably 5% of what Courtland Sutton is making to do the same work.
Right.
He's earned it. He's deserved it. It's about his body of work, what he's done, that's given him that money. But he has that perspective on that. He knows that this is a locker room full of guys. They're all working their butts off, and they're all trying to get to that payday. And I don't want to stand in the way of some of my brothers who've been through the same things I have, getting paid like I just did.
I also think he looks at it this way. He is so used to losing, and he wants to win a title. I think that's another reason why that he did it. You and I believe, had this conversation a couple of days ago. People will look at Tom Brady, because of all those Super Bowl wins, as the greatest quarterback of all time. Whether he is or not, and that is a discussion for another day, he is the smartest football player of all time in this sense. Reportedly, he probably left over $100 million on the table through contracts, because what he did is what Sutton did. I don't need to be the highest paid quarterback in the league. He could have commanded being the highest paid quarterback in the league anytime he wanted to. But he wanted to make sure the other guys got paid so he could win titles.
Right. And those 7 titles contributed to him getting a broadcasting job where he gets $37.5 million a year, right? So he's probably made up for that 100 that he missed, or he's going to pretty shortly here.
And you know what? He didn't have to pay his wife either when they got divorced, I bet.
Is that right?
Maybe she paid him.
Yeah. Patrick Mahomes did something similar, right? Took a little bit of a hometown discount. In your opinion, the greatest quarterback of all time. Those two are 1 and 2, you said, of all time.
They are.
And then you said it's Peyton Manning and then everyone else.
Wow. Now maybe I should have listen, I'm a big Joe Montana fan.
No, you're not. If you put Peyton, I mean, Peyton was amazing, but if you put Peyton ahead of Joe and you put Pat ahead of Joe and you put all these guys ahead of Joe, I don't know if you're a big Joe Montana fan.
I would put him forward. There's nothing wrong with putting somebody having somebody top 5.
4 Super Bowls, man. 4 for 4.
Okay. Well, good. I'm glad you said that. So then it's Brady, and after that it's going to be Montana and Mahomes, because that's 7 Super Bowls.
And Bradshaw had 4 too.
Would you consider him a top 5 quarterback?
No.
Then why are we rating quarterbacks based on Super Bowls?
It matters. It does matter, and you
It
know
do-
that.
it does
There's
matter.
context for all of it. Bradshaw probably wasn't, slinging it around the same way or
Right.
commanding the offense in the same manner, and he had a team that was, whatever. There's context for the conversation, but you leaving Joe out of there, man. It's pretty.
I think Joe Montana is fantastic.
Yeah.
I would just take Mahomes over him.
Yeah.
Joe Montana, and we need to get off this topic.
Okay.
Joe Montana was a great quarterback. And when I covered him with the Chiefs, his receivers would say, and you would appreciate this as a guy who caught a lot of passes in the NFL, every time you caught a pass from him, they would say it felt like you were catching a pillow.
Right.
Because it just landed perfectly in your hands.
I'll say this. Bo Nix has some Joe Montana to him.
He does.
Really sharp upstairs, can make, deceptively good outside of the pocket with his legs. Bo's a better athlete and a little bit more stout, but very serious about it, very calm and collected. I mean, you remember the story about Joe Montana in the Super Bowl pointing out John Candy, right, to relax his teammates. I think that Bo Nix can have that type of trajectory here in Denver. But of course, it's a little early.
A little bit early.
A little bit early for that.
I mean, we can take what you just said, clip it,
yeah,
put it on Instagram, and we'll see what kind of reaction it gets.
It always brings out the,
it's
the supporters.
Going back to Sutton taking, in theory, a hometown discount. There are 2 guys I can think of off the top of my head who took hometown discounts and made a mistake. Chris Harris and Derek Wolfe. Derek Wolfe signed his deal, his second deal, I think it was a couple of weeks before the Super Bowl. Chris Harris signed his deal, and he was an up-and-comer at that point.
Yeah.
And he got paid, and he should have gotten paid. But he took his deal about 14 months before the Super Bowl. What they failed to realize is something that Courtland Sutton has realized. For those guys, they didn't realize Peyton Manning was eventually going to retire. And retire pretty quickly. Yeah. They took less money, I'm guessing, because they felt this was going to continue. The Super Bowl was just the start of them winning, and it ended right after that game.
Yeah.
For Courtland Sutton, he took less money, betting on the come. You have a quarterback who's under control financially for the next 4 years. He wants to make sure Zach Allen comes back, if possible, Nick Bonito. His hometown discount makes sense to me because this team is on the way up.
Yeah.
I think everybody knew no matter how good that defense was in 2015, for starters, you can't keep 11 guys.
Well, let's unpack that a little bit with Peyton, because he did not have a very productive year offensively in 2015. Probably one of his worst years of his career.
His worst year by far.
And they still won the Super Bowl. So there was probably a feeling that, like, we can do this without Peyton, right? We're going to continue to be good no matter what.
What jackass would actually believe that you're going to win consistently with Trevor Siemian?
Well, I think
and that was
every jackass who runs a team thinks that he can find a replacement for the guy who just left.
This was John Elway's mistake. John Elway's mistake was, we can win with Trevor Siemian because our defense is so good.
Right.
How did that turn out?
Yeah.
And then it was like a quarterback carousel. You do have to have it's easier to pay one guy a ton of money than keeping 11 guys on that defense, which was tremendous. You can't keep all 11 guys. It's not possible.
Yeah.
So those guys took hometown discounts, and good for them trying to keep players, but they didn't have the quarterback. Courtland Sutton has the quarterback and a great team around him. That's money well not taken.
Yeah.
As opposed to those guys, I'm guessing in hindsight, they probably wish they would have asked for what they were worth.
Hindsight, of course.
Yes.
Hindsight, of course. But in the moment, you don't think that you're about to suck next year. You don't think like that. You don't think like that at all. All athletes think they're going to be great. It's going to last forever. We're going to win the Super Bowl every year. This is only the beginning of our excellence. And, they didn't realize Peyton's influence over everything on that team was more than what he was doing under center. It was his influence in the locker room, his influence in preparation, studying, understanding what they were about to face. And just, he was the rising tide that lifted all boats. And you talk about the people whose games talked about Demaryius Thomas, who's like just got so much better when Peyton entered the building because the standard that he set every single day.
Right.
And there was, Trevor Siemian wasn't going to do that. He didn't know how to do that. In fact, nobody does.
Correct.
Payton was the unicorn. He was the tri-horned unicorn, albino unicorn that doesn't ever come around.
Right.
There is no other Peyton Manning, and we tried to figure out how to replace Peyton Manning here for the last decade. We finally got a guy who can be himself, be one of the guys and go play ball. I think that's the exciting thing about Bo Nix. He's not trying to be Peyton Manning.
No.
He's trying to be himself and endear himself to his teammates, and he's done that.
I'll tell you this, the advantage that Bo Nix has over almost any quarterback in the league. Clearly, he can reach out to Drew Brees anytime he wants to. Okay. And I'm sure
why he would, though.
What's that?
I don't know. The whole he's talking to Drew Brees. Now he's talking to Peyton. Now he's talking to
is that a bad thing?
I don't think it's a bad thing, but again, it's part of this obsession with him being the next that guy.
No. I'm not.
Let's let him maybe he has a mentor that nobody's ever heard of. It's just Bill down the street who's a really wise old man who works on his Chevy every day, and he goes and talks to that guy, and he's got a lot of cool stuff to say too. You know what I mean? Who knows?
I don't know why. I don't know why you're honestly discounting this.
I'm not discounting.
He basically has, if he wants it, Manning, Elway, and Brees on speed dial whenever he wants to talk to them.
Right.
And I mean, you think about this. How would you like, as a wide receiver, because you played wide receiver, to have Jerry Rice's phone number to be able to pick his brain whenever you want?
I wouldn't be calling Jerry and asking him questions about playing wide receiver. I played with Jerry for a brief amount of time.
Right.
It's why aren't you calling Bob Costas right now and talking about
I don't have his number.
Well, if you did, would you be calling him every day?
If I had questions, absolutely.
Okay.
You better believe it. For me, whether it's business or life, you always want to talk to people smarter than you. That's how you grow and learn.
Well, the thing
hold on a second. There's a reason why. God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. You're never gonna learn by talking. You're only gonna learn by listening. So if you can have the ear of those 3 guys, I think that's valuable. And with all due respect to the wide receiver position and the quarterback position, I even think you would agree. Quarterback is the hardest position to play because there is so much nuance that is involved with it, whether it is understanding offense, reading the defense, being a leader. And if you have all 3 of those guys who can help you out whenever you need it, that's a big deal. And I'll throw something else. I'm going to throw something else at you if I haven't already said enough. The Broncos have the 2 greatest quarterbacks you could ever have in an organization to be able to call.
Okay.
Now, and I'm including Montana and Young. And that's your team, the 49ers. I'm including Favre and Aaron Rodgers. To be able to call those guys, that is invaluable.
Bo is calling John Elway in the middle of training camp and asking him what he did on this certain thing and how he went about. He is his own guy. He's got to be his own guy.
I agree.
And being legend, tell me how to do it. Legend, tell me how to do it.
No, I don't think it's that way.
Sean Payton knows what to say to him.
Right.
He doesn't need to be calling all these legends and getting more. I don't think.
I'm just saying having the access to it.
Sure.
I'm not saying they're phone buddies and they text each other and they're on Snapchat together.
TikToks to each other.
What I'm saying is it's nice to know if you have a question, you have someone to call. So for me personally, and I'm going to.
What would the question be in your mind? What was it be an example of a question Bo Nix would call John Elway to ask?
I'm going to give you, I'm going to take it to broadcasting. I can't speak for football because I never played the position and I'm not in the NFL.
Right.
I had a question about John Elway yesterday. I didn't cover him. I called Mark Kisla. Mark covered him. It's nice to have that resource. When I was over at Fox 31 and I had questions about the history of sports, Ron Zappolo was in the building. When I stopped working at Fox 31 and I had questions about the history of Denver sports, I could call Les Shapiro, and I always had him in my corner if I ever needed something. Right. Maybe I didn't understand something. All I'm saying is, no, I didn't call Les all the time, although he and I did a show together. I did shows with Ron too. Actually, I did shows with Kisla too. My point is, it's nice to be able to have somebody who has experienced this at the highest level if there's something that you need. That's all I'm saying.
I'll say this about, I think Drew Brees, the value of Drew Brees for Bo Nix is that Drew Brees played for Sean Payton for so long.
Right.
That system, his temperament, the way things are with Sean and like that thing. I think that's a good friendship for Bo to have.
Yeah.
But to call up like a legend and pick his brain about his legendary legendness,
But
I think is like, come on, Bo, you're 24 years old, go play. These guys are young. They don't need to have the same heroes as we do. I think that's important.
Okay, I'll ask you something. You're a quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah.
And you want to talk to somebody on how to read defenses.
Yeah.
Give me a guy you'd call.
My quarterback coach. Right now.
Really?
Yeah.
You'd call Webb over Peyton Manning? Really?
Yes, I would, because he knows the system. He's sitting there with me every day. Why would you call Peyton Manning, who's over there doing whatever he's doing in, production and living his life, and be like, hey, what do you do on this one thing? Davis Webb is going over this stuff every day with you. Sean Payton knows this like the back of his hand. And yes, he knows it better than Peyton because it's his system. He's installing all these wrinkles. Why would you go elsewhere when you have everything you need in the building? I think these friendships and mentorships are good.
That's all I'm referring to.
For whatever, I mean, here and there. But to think that Bo is going home, picking up the phone,
I'm not
and
suggesting
all these guys,
that. I'm not suggesting you're not hearing me. What I'm saying is it's probably comforting knowing that if you needed something, Peyton would pick up the phone. Elway would pick up the phone. Same with Brees. And oh, by the way, there's a quarterback in the history of the league that is better reading defenses than Peyton Manning, and that is not close. That is not close.
I don't disagree with you.
So my point is, if you have questions about things,
yeah,
you give this guy a call. You're calling the best ever. So do you really think that, I don't know, Joe Flacco is calling Peyton Manning?
No.
Right. Do you think that Tua Tagovailoa is calling Peyton Manning? He doesn't have his number.
You think Bo's going to call Peyton and ask him how to spot a weak side linebacker blitz when you're running them? You think that's happening? Those type of conversations?
Well, what I know is this about me. If I don't know something, okay, and I'm not saying like if I call Kiz about the thing that I wanted to talk to him about yesterday, I don't talk to Kiz every other day. Maybe I talk to him unless I see him at training camp or a game or something like that. I'll call him once every 3-4 months.
Right.
But it's nice to know I can.
Yeah.
It's nice to know that he will pick up the phone because I don't know everything. I know very little. Ask my wife and my 2 girls. I'm told I'm wrong all the time.
I'll tell you that too if you want.
And you as well.
Here's the thing. Peyton, okay, so defenses change. You're basing Peyton's knowledge was based on this film study he had of the opponents he was going to face, and he understood, Eric, that you, my opponent, like to put your feet right there when you're doing this coverage, but you turn your toes inward when you go do that blitz. And so it was about scouting your opponents and studying the guys you're going to face. That's why Peyton was so damn good. Of course he has a blanket knowledge and an understanding of the big picture, but the reason why he was so good on game day is because he was prepared for you, Eric, and he knew exactly what you were going to do. So if Bo called him up and said, Peyton, what do you do? He's going to say, watch. Here's what to look for when you're watching.
You know what Peyton would say? Why don't
Omaha?
No, he would say, why don't you come on over, bring the tape, and let's go over it together.
Okay. You think that's what? Yeah, probably.
Do I think Peyton Manning's that type of guy?
Yeah.
Hell yeah, I do.
Yeah, cool. I'm just saying, I know.
What do you think he did with Drew Brees? They played pickleball. I'm sure they went over. I'm sure they went over
brewskis, Eric. It's not all football. It's not all X's and O's. These are about relationships that you can come to rely on. I don't think Drew Brees is going to be, his X's and O's guy. I think he's going to be his spirit guy, understanding Sean Payton, what he's asking of him. I'm sure he'll know.
So are you suggesting they didn't go over film together? I'd be stunned if they didn't look at some film together. Stunned, wouldn't you?
No, I wouldn't be stunned. It wouldn't stun me.
All I know is for me, as someone who likes to learn, if I have the opportunity to talk to somebody who knows something that I don't know or I'm struggling with, it's comforting to know that I have the ability to call somebody that knows more than me.
Sure.
And there isn't an organization in football that has had 2 better quarterbacks as a tandem than Manning and Elway. Yeah. And then you throw Drew Brees in there.
Let me make one more point. I think that Sean Payton was probably the guy that connected them, right? For a reason. Brees and Bo Nix. It's not like they ran into each other at the supermarket, right? So Sean Payton clearly wants that to be something he can go to, a sounding board. And so I think it'll be good for Bo. I just don't know how much he's going to be calling up.
He's not going to be doing it often.
Elway and Manning and Brady and all these guys.
We're not communicating. I'm not saying they talk all the time. What I'm saying is, I'm guessing from his point of view, it's nice to know that if he was struggling with something, had a question, he can clearly talk to Davis. He can clearly talk to Webb. He can clearly talk to Sean Payton. But he also has the opportunity to talk to 3 Hall of Fame quarterbacks, guys who played the position. Webb played quarterback, not a Hall of Famer. Payton played quarterback at Eastern Illinois. There is a difference.
Do you think that all the Hall of Famers know how to explain why they were great? The answer is no. And most Hall of Famers were just awesome. And they're not. That's why they're not good coaches. Name one Hall of Famer who's an awesome coach.
A
Hall of Famer who's also an awesome coach.
Well, usually they're not, because it comes so easy to them.
Right. So they
get frustrated. So there are outliers, like a Larry Bird was an excellent coach.
You know what I'm saying, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
The guys who can articulate it are not always the ones who are the best at it. They were just freaking good at it.
There is a long list of former athletes, great athletes, who failed as head coaches.
Yeah.
Because it came so easy to them that as they're trying to teach it, they're like, what don't you get? What don't you understand? But sitting down with Payton, I think that in terms of reading, I don't think that Peyton Manning spent hours and hours and hours poring over film. And the reason why he didn't have to. It came easy to him.
You don't think Peyton Manning watched a lot of film?
I'm saying everything that he watched, he grasped quickly. So it cut down his time on how much film he
had. He didn't win a playoff game until his 6th season.
Okay.
It took him a while to figure it out.
Okay.
And when we got him here, he was a virtuoso at that point. He was like Picasso.
Right.
I mean, he was in his late 30s and he'd seen it all. But all I'm saying, I hope that he has a good relationship with all these folks. I just don't think he's going home after a hard practice and calling up Peyton and saying, man, that was a tough practice. What do we do?
We are not communicating.
Yes, we are.
I didn't say that he is. I said it's nice to know that if you need to talk to somebody, they're going to pick up the phone. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. With that, this show brought to you by Landmark Lincoln. You got to check out the new Lincoln Navigator. This thing is a great ride. Loaded, smooth, powerful. Not your grandpa's. Your grandpa used to drive a Lincoln, probably.
Yeah.
He can't handle that horsepower. Love the luxury. Can't handle the ride on the road. And when you talk about Landmark Lincoln, 4.9 star rating with over 560 verified reviews. They treat people right. They've been doing it for over 100 years. If you're doing something for over 100 years, then you are doing it right. That is Landmark Lincoln. You can find them off of Broadway or go to landmarklincoln.com. I don't know how we went down the rabbit hole.
That was awesome. That was fun.
I don't know how we went down that rabbit hole of it's nice that you have somebody you can call.
It is. It is nice. It's nice to know. It's like when your parents say, you know what? If you get too drunk and you need a ride home, just call me. No questions asked. Do you call?
Do I call my parents?
Yeah.
Not now.
Right. You find your way home. But it's always nice to know that they're there if you need them.
Right.
Yep.
And he spent 4 or 5 days with Drew Brees.
Yep. Yep.
I mean, I'm not saying it's a big deal.
Why did they spend 5 days? Like, what were they doing for 5 days? 5 days is a long time now.
Playing pinochle, probably. I am guessing. Anyway, that is going to do it for us. Episode 3.
Yeah, in the books.
In the books.
Yeah.
And then we come on again on Monday.
That's right.
At 3:00.
Yep. Good stuff, Eric.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, that's going to do it for us. Going deep with Jackson Goodman. Make it the best possible day you can.